Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to talk about Star Wars. Woo! I am Skye. Welcome to the movie proposal. With me is Josh Lindsay.
Hey, everybody.
And Jason Rugg.
Hello.
Okay, our normal format, we're going to breeze through really quick. First, something old. Josh?
Willow. 1988.
Wow, I remember that.
But do you know why I picked it?
Yes.
Because it's
Warwick Davis.
No. Well, I mean, he's in the Star Wars films.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It's Star Wars. It's you can line up every character. Willow is Luke. Obi-Wan is the old wizard.
Yeah.
Val Kilmer, Mad Mardigan is Han Solo, and so on. Like every character. Darth Vader.
That was a Lucasfilm film, wasn't it? Yeah.
George Lucas wrote it. And interestingly, Ron Howard directed it. Who also just directed another Lucasfilm coming out.
Okay, so I remember seeing Willow when it came out, 1988.
Yeah.
And I think I maybe saw it one more time on like a sleepover when I was a kid, when we rented it from some rental store, and I have never seen it again.
Well, it's one of my favorites, and I showed it to my kids a year ago, and they loved it. See, like the special effects are horrible,
right?
But it's a fun story, and it's Star Wars, but just told in medieval times with magic.
Little people.
Yes, yeah, there are little people in it. Yeah.
Okay. We're like I said, we're breezing through this. My something old is The Fugitive.
Oh, great movie.
1993. Harrison Ford, Tommy Lee Jones. The tagline I pulled off of IMDb: a murdered wife, a one-armed man, an obsessed detective. The chase begins.
Yes, based on the TV show.
Yeah, and I picked this partly because it's Harrison Ford, kind of the Star Wars connection, but also I feel like they just don't make movies like this anymore.
You're right.
They're not super high budget superhero, CGI special effected out the wazoo kind of movie. It's just a good old caper.
Right, I agree.
But draws you in and engages really well. It's shot in Chicago.
Oh yeah, the river.
Right?
Oh, St. Patrick's Day, yeah.
So anyway, The Fugitive, Willow, we're moving on. Something new. Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I know the entire internet is completely saturated with reviews and commentary and on and on and on, and you probably don't even care what we think about it, but we're going to talk about this movie.
I just want to say before we jump in, it was 2 years ago that I saw The Force Awakens with my kids, and then I went home and I was so frustrated because I had no one to talk to. I mean, I asked my kids, like, what'd you think? And then they tell me, and then I was like...
They were useless.
Right, they were. And so I was, I was boiling over. So I called Skye and I said, can we talk about this movie?
I love the fact that, like, in my capacity, pseudo capacity as a pastor, I'll have a friend call me up and be like, I know we haven't talked in a while, Skye, but I'm really wrestling with faith. Can we get together and talk? Or, hey, marriage, we're having some issues. Can we get together with you and Amanda and talk? Like, that's happened from time to time. Yeah. You're the only person in my life who's like, I'm having a crisis with Star Wars.
I was.
Can we get together and talk? And honestly, when I got that message, I was like, yes! Yes, we can.
I felt really good after we left Panera or whatever it was.
Yeah, and here we are. Yeah. So that's what's kind of the seed of this whole podcast, right? Okay.
Go ahead.
Your proposal, Josh.
Okay. But this was tough. I first of all, I need to see this movie again. And I'm going to give you a proposal, and I got to expand on it. I got a lot of little asterisks I got to add to this. But I propose that Star Wars: The Last Jedi disappoints, but that doesn't matter because it's for the kids anyway.
Wow, I think I heard the same argument about Roy Moore. Sorry.
Man, you ruined my proposal.
It's for the kids.
All right, that was off color a little bit. And I did not know your proposal before you just said it. So that's just what popped into my head.
Quick. Well, I'd like to clean up that mess. First of all, I want to say I did enjoy it overall.
Yeah.
But it was so full of so many disappointments that I just kept scratching my head asking, why did they do that? Why did they do that? And what it brought me back to was Return of the Jedi. I think that was the only Star Wars I saw in the theater as a kid. The other ones were all on VHS. And I remember coming home from Return of the Jedi, and I could not shut up about it.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter that, of the three, 4, 5, and 6, that's the least favorite everyone's usually. And it doesn't matter that there were Ewoks in there and it should have been Wookiees and people complain about, like, I loved seeing Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia and everyone on the big screen. And it didn't matter about any of the backstories or what worked or what didn't work. It was fun. But as an adult, I read everything about The Last Jedi. I heard Benicio del Toro was going to be in it, and I was excited, and I heard they were going to do more with Chrome Dome and all these things, And I had like, okay, I got my list. All these questions are going to be answered. All these things are going to be done. And it was just tick, 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 tick off the list of disappointments. And I'm like, that's no fun, but when you're a kid, who cares, right?
And that's, I think, what Disney's banking on, is they know that people are going to go to these movies no matter what.
Yes.
Right?
I didn't like it. I've seen it twice.
You saw it twice? Yeah. That's hilarious. You didn't like it and you saw it twice.
It's Star Wars.
I'm conflicted about the movie, and I've only seen it once. I will see it again. But, so let me give you my proposal, because I think that it fits fairly well with what you said. So I propose that The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars movie since the original trilogy, but that's not saying much.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I feel like this film, I was telling Jason this before we started rolling, the original trilogy, and there's the nostalgia, and it's from our childhoods and all that, but I really believe that it's a unique, wonderful story that has just a confluence of great storytelling, amazing characters, mind-boggling kind of effects for its age, but it was such a unique kind of creation in the 1980s, 70s, and 80s. And after watching this movie, I think I've come to peace with the fact that it will never be replicated again. Like that,
right.
Not the story itself, but that chemistry, that amazing trilogy. And so now, like, I went into this movie hoping that this new trilogy would get close to matching the old trilogy's magic. Mm-hmm. And now I've come away going, all right, I need to just give up that expectation. It's never going to happen. Let it go. Just be grateful for what you were given, 30, 40 years ago,
right,
and move on.
Right.
And yes, I will see episode 9, but I'm going to go in with way, way lower expectations. Now, that doesn't mean there weren't elements of this movie that I really enjoyed.
Well, I would like to hear that, because I liked The Force Awakens better than this one.
I actually liked this one better than The Force Awakens.
All right, so what did you... And I did like this film. I was just disappointed. But what did you like about it?
So here's my list of things I liked. And it's kind of weird because I'm starting off with something that wasn't in the film, and I'm glad it wasn't.
Okay.
So if you remember, I speculated it when we discussed the trailer, that they were going to move into the territory of gray Jedi.
Oh, right.
Right, of just kind of, the dark and the light dichotomy is kind of old school, and we need to bring them together in this yin-yang kind of thing. And I thought it was going to go into kind of moral relativism and great, and they didn't go into that, which I was really grateful for. Like, you come, but spoiler,
they still can.
That's the thing, and I have that parenthetically in my notes here. It still could go that way in episode 9, but so far, they haven't gone there. And one of the things I loved about Star Wars from the beginning is it was a fairy tale. There's good and there's evil. There's the light, there's the dark, and there is no moral ambiguity about that. And I felt like that's the direction that they were going to move now in the new trilogy, and they haven't yet. So I'm grateful for that. Second big thing I loved about this movie was the surprises. Like, not necessarily the individual surprises, but the fact that there were surprises. For me, any movie I watch, if I can predict where it's going to go, or if I could have, written that story, I'm unimpressed. I was genuinely surprised in this movie and what happened. And I think a lot of people and all the fanboys with their speculations and theories were blown away by it. And I enjoyed that. Like, there were numerous points in this movie where I was like, no.
Like what?
Like, at the beginning when Leia's bridge on her ship gets blown up and she gets sucked out into space.
Right.
And I was like, holy cow, they just killed Princess Leia.
Right.
And I loved that. But then she Mary Poppins it back into the thing. I did not like that.
I've been calling that the Superman moment.
Yeah, I did not like that, but I was like, dang, like they just killed Princess Leia. That's huge. And then of course, I mean, there's numerous moments like that, and they're like Snoke, right? Like I don't have a problem with the fact that Snoke was literally cut out of this movie, right? I mean, he just, like, those kinds of, you didn't see that coming moments. Like I enjoyed that wow, that was really cool. A couple other things. I liked Luke in this for the most part. I'll get to something I didn't like about him in a minute, but I liked his power. I like the fact that he dies at the end. Like, fanboys that I've been reading on the internet or on YouTube are freaking out. They're angry that Luke dies in this movie, and I was like totally cool with that. And I thought the way they handled it with the two sons and the music, I thought it was great. And I was totally fine with that. And you know he's coming back as a Force ghost in 9 anyway, so it's like, whatever. I did not mind that at all. I thought the battles were pretty good. I thought the battle, the lightsaber battle in the throne room with the guards,
with Rey, and
so cool.
That was awesome. Like, that was a really cool new. Like, that was just fantastic. And finally, two more things. I like the cinematography. I thought, like, visually it was a really stunning movie.
Yeah.
And then I actually kind of liked the development of both Rey and Kylo Ren as characters. Like, I felt drawn into that dynamic that was presented
between
in the
two
film.
of them?
Between the two of them, and even individually, and they're like, I was cool with that. And you got to understand, this list, I went searching for things to like about this movie. Okay, but those are the things that came to the front of my mind as stuff that, like, they were satisfying parts of the movie for me.
Did at one point, did you think Rey was going to turn bad and Kylo was going to turn good?
Yeah, or I thought there was going to be like I thought they were going to go the gray direction of this yin yang, Ren and Rey. Together we balance the Force, and I don't know how that was going to resolve. But I thought they were really going to partner in some way.
Because there was a point where she was getting really angry at it. This is early in their conversations, which I actually thought was pretty cool.
Someone's commented that it's Force texting.
Force? Oh,
because it's like they're texting back and forth to each other, but via the Force.
Yeah.
And it's very.
Well, they can't see each other, so maybe it's more like Skype.
But they could see each other.
Right, they could.
Right. Yeah. Or Force FaceTime.
There you go.
Force time.
Well, she was getting really angry, and he was pretty calm about it. And that's when he admitted, I am a monster. And I thought, oh, wait a second, maybe he's like turning around, and she's gonna get like vicious, and give in to the dark side. But
they swap.
I really.
He's
That's.
good,
I thought
bad.
that I read it wrong or something. But all right, do you have more of the list?
That's the good stuff.
All right.
I have a long list of bad stuff.
Yeah, I do too. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump into that.
Okay, so I have under my stuff I didn't like. I have two categories. There's sort of the basic stuff about the film I didn't like, and then I have two big issues that we could spend more time on. So let's dive into just the aspects of the film itself that.
Okay.
Because my two big issues are like meta level big problems with this entire new trilogy. Does that make sense?
Yep,
So let's deal with it. So first thing that I thought was really stupid was the entire Finn Rose subplot.
So pointless.
Well,
The Canto Bight casino, find the hacker guy.
Right,
thing.
right.
Like, I heard another podcast and they said it this way, and I thought it was spot on. It felt like a Harry Potter movie inside of a Star Wars movie. Like, it didn't feel Star Warsy, and it was totally unnecessary.
because they were just going on this wild goose chase.
Yeah,
And nothing came of it.
and nothing came of it. And
But what I took from that was Yoda's failure is the greatest teacher.
yeah,
Like Poe failed at the beginning. He got all these people killed because he was being arrogant or whatever. Finn and Rose failed their mission. Luke failed overall at some level.
well,
right?
on a whole nother level, I think Yoda's right because I think this movie failed. like you could have communicated.
That's why they put
you
that in
could
there.
have communicated that idea without having like a 30-minute subplot that was dumb.
Was it that long? Because it felt like 5 minutes. That was my problem with it. It was like I was interested in this Canto Bight place that they were going to. I wanted to see like stuff happen. I was excited about Benicio del Toro. What's he going to do?
And he was pointless.
Right, and it was like, and it didn't bother me that they had the subplot. It bothered me that they didn't have more of the subplot.
Well,
like I wanted
It
to.
didn't do anything.
Right.
if it had been more, then it could have done something.
And the one thing they did do was get kind of preachy and social commentary, which Star Wars has never done.
It did. There did feel like they took a break. and they
It
had-
got into this war profiteering moral high ground.
Right.
Like, oh, this, the guy who used to have this ship sold weapons to the First Order, and by the way, to the Resistance.
Right,
They're making all the money. I'm like, really? Like, anyone who's listened to our podcast or Phil's podcast knows that I can get political and I get into social commentary and all that, and people sometimes are uncomfortable. I don't want that in my Star Wars film.
Right.
And I thought that was way out of place and weird. So Del Toro's character, I mean, I think he was supposed to be sort of the Lando character.
Right. He was either like a Han Solo without a conscience or Lando.
Right.
Yeah.
And he just, it was so flat, and I didn't care. And it, like, why not just make him the guy at the casino table? Why does he end up being some random dude you're in a prison cell with?
Right.
Like, it was all these weird story decisions that didn't make any sense.
You're already convinced everyone on this planet is a bad guy by Rose, and then you get some guy who doesn't belong on the planet.
Right. He
doesn't fit in with everyone else who's rich and all that sort of stuff. He's kind of an underling random person.
Yeah.
And so if they had got the guy who is a bad guy, and then he turns on them, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this was just some dude in a prison cell.
Like,
okay.
if Maz Kanata and that weird exposition she's having in the middle of a fight via hologram, like if she had said, hey, look, the only guy I know who could do what you need is in prison on Canto Bight, you need to go get him out, be like, oh, okay. But they're like, no, he'll be wearing this and he'll be gambling. But then, I mean, it's just, it was so unnecessarily complicated.
Yeah.
That whole segment just felt stupid, and we'll get into the kind of a bigger issue then. So, number 2 thing I didn't like, the humor.
You didn't like the humor?
I did not like the humor, and I need to kind of explain why. I think humor has a place in Star Wars. I really do.
Yeah.
Because when you go back to the original trilogy, humor was always part of it. But the humor was primarily the purview of the droids. Right, R2 and C-3PO were kind of your
comedy break,
right? Your comic narrators that kind of take you through the story, and then occasionally the humor came from like Han Solo's cockiness, which was part of his character. Right, that's essential to who he is. The one other time you see it in the original trilogy is Yoda when you first meet the character in Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, right,
but it's very intentional because he's testing Luke.
Yeah.
Right? He's being goofy in order to throw off, to test Luke. But in this series, they're using humor in a way that diminishes really serious characters.
Like Luke throwing the lightsaber?
Yeah. That's one. Or Luke when he kind of brushes the dust off his shoulder, like no, like that. I'm like, no, that's not how it should be used. And the one that kind of irritated me the most was right at the beginning of the movie.
Oh, with Hux?
With Hux.
The prank phone call.
The prank and the mama joke, like your mother. You know,
a message for your mother.
I'm like, okay. Here's the deal. Like your mother jokes are a 21st century American phenomena, right? Totally blows the illusion of a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Go to the original trilogy again, and you have that in Empire Strikes Back. You have Leia. Insulting Han by calling him a fuzzy whatever nerf herder,
right?
And you go, we have no idea what that is, but it's apparently funny as an insult in their world. But it's like that really annoyed me that they ruined some of the gravitas of some characters by making them funny. Which, to his credit, Lucas and the other writers of the original trilogy knew, hey, these are for kids. We're going to have some humor in here. Mm-hmm. We're going to have that weird little toad thing outside of Jabba's palace that's going to eat something and make kids laugh.
Right.
But we're not going to put humor into the mouths of serious characters. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like that annoyed me. So anyway, what's another thing you kind of chafed on?
Well, you talked about this in your Facebook post, but there was so much that was set up in Force Awakens that they didn't see it through, or it was just a lame response. So, for example, what's her name? Chrome Dome, the Phasma.
Yeah.
So that. Okay, on one hand, that's like the Boba Fett character.
Right.
We're like, great. Like, we didn't really get to see Boba Fett in action. Here's another Boba Fett type character. Let's see him or see her in action, right? And you don't in Force Awakens, but I swear I read somewhere, no, this character's gonna develop. You're gonna see this person in action.
Well, and she has one fight. which she really didn't have in the first movie. But it still wasn't satisfying at all.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't at all. Like, see, they could have gotten rid of that whole Canto bite thing. They could have. They really just could have. Like, there was. I think there's too much going on, quite frankly.
Yep.
And I think the length of the film. I was getting tired at one point, but that was a disappointment because I wanted to see her do something like more than just a battle scene.
Right.
On the other hand, and this just goes back to being a kid. Like, Boba Fett has got to be one of the all-time favorite characters, and yet has done hardly anything. But that's the point, is that in The Last Jedi, the last scene of the movie are little kids playing literally with Star Wars figurines. And that's what we did. And we made up our own stories for them, right?
Right.
And so with Boba Fett, you could do whatever you want because there is no story, right? So same thing with Phasma, right? As an adult, I'm like, are you kidding me? There has to be more. She's not a very good fighter.
You know, Phasma, I think it's very clear now after the second movie, she is just a big shiny porg.
You didn't like the porgs?
Well, no, I thought they were fine, but they were only in there to sell toys.
Oh, got it.
Right? I think she was only in there to sell action figures. Like, she's a cool looking action figure.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I'll get into this in a little bit.
What were you going to say, Jason?
I was going to say one of the things Star Wars always did fantastically was let your imagination fill it in.
Right.
There are so many instances of, Han Solo talking about my ship can make the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs. I don't know what that means, but that is such a cool idea. It sounds cool. I want to know the backstory. I can fill that in myself. Boba Fett is implied cool.
Right.
He does some cool things, and then you can fill in the backstory and go, wow, what did he do? What other things can he do? These new ones don't let that grow. They don't have those moments of, here's something we're going to talk about. Even the prequel trilogy had that, where it's like, we fell in that nest of Gundarks. Obi-Wan says that to Anakin in episode 2. I don't know what that means, but that sounds like a cool story. There's none of that in any of these new Star Wars movies.
That's true.
It's not there.
Right. It doesn't assume a much bigger universe that these characters have been a part of.
Just pay attention to this story right now. Don't let your mind
And part of that, which I'll get to in a second, one of my big issues is I think there was just so much they had to accomplish. You don't have any space in these movies to do that nuanced development of the universe and characters. So,
Okay, what about Rey's parents?
I should add this to my list of things I did like.
Okay.
I am so fine with the fact that she is not a Skywalker or a Solo or a Kenobi or a Palpatine or anything like, and to be like, all those fan theories just really annoyed me. And in the Force Awakens, Maz Kanata says to her, if you recall, hey, you already know the truth that they're never coming back. Like, the people that left you, they're never coming. When she's down there with and you need to look for. So I kind of felt like that was already resolved for me in the last movie, even though everyone was like, who's her parents? Who's her parents? Yeah. I am absolutely thrilled with the fact that they didn't give her some crazy lineage. I like the fact that she's a nobody. What I hated was, for me, the biggest unanswered question of The Force Awakens was, why does Rey have these incredible Force powers out of nowhere that she was never trained, and why did Anakin's lightsaber call to her? Right? That's kind of the mystery box that J.J. Abrams put into The Force Awakens. Right. Well, so in this movie, I was looking for some clue or answer to not who are Rey's parents, but why is Rey so powerful in the Force?
But isn't it the same thing as in line with the parents? It's like,
it could be, but I don't think it had to be.
It's like, I guess the question would be like, when you say, why does she have to have special parents? And you can also say, why does she have to be someone? Why does something have to be special about her that she has the Force? I mean, like, why not?
Well, I do have one thing. Do you believe what Kylo Ren said about her parents? Do you believe that?
I do.
Okay. I'm not sure.
I know there's people who are speculating he was lying.
I personally don't think I believe it, because I think Snoke, he was the one making the connection. So I don't know, and everything that Kylo
so he was manipulating
was
this. But she didn't disagree with him.
Yeah.
When he said, you already know, they were nobodies, right? And she accepts that. She doesn't say, no, it's not true, I'm not giving up on it. Like, there was none of that.
I'm not saying that she's a Skywalker or anything, but I just don't know if I necessarily believe it yet.
Okay, fine.
But I feel like JJ's coming back. He's going to bring that back.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking of, where First of all, once again, on Skye's post, Skye's got a great.
I'll link to it in the notes.
It's a bit of a rant.
It is a bit, but it's great. Just talking about how J.J. Abrams set up all these questions and then handed it off to the next guy, Rian Johnson, and then he, in my opinion, was a letdown in how he responded to it. But now J.J. Abrams is going to pick it back up.
Yeah.
And he could, like Jason was saying, say like, well, Kylo Ren was lying to you. But here's my question: is that what they're really doing? Are they really just? There is no arc. They have no idea how it's going to end, and they just give it to the director and say, "Hey, look, just write a story, and then we'll have to connect it in the next one." And
that's
just
my fear. Yeah, that's what the whole post was, and this is my number one biggest problem coming out of the movie was it's now evident to me that this new trilogy has no cohesive story. My assumption, and this is a kind of cliff notes of my post on Facebook, my assumption was that when Disney bought Lucasfilm and commissioned a new trilogy, that they got together with the story group at Lucasfilm and plotted out the basic characters and story arc of episodes 7, 8, and 9, and then hired different directors to put their own, fingerprints on it, but develop those 3 movies. But there was one story with 3 acts. And now it's very clear that JJ did what he wanted in episode 7 and did his nostalgic mystery box stuff, which drove a lot of us crazy. And then Rian Johnson came in episode 8 and looked at what he was handed by J.J. Abrams and just threw it over his shoulder like Luke did with the lightsaber. Said, forget Phasma, forget Snoke, forget all this stuff, forget the nostalgia, and just redid the whole thing. And it's like, okay, I like the surprising part of that, but you can't. The analogy I make is, in A New Hope, we're introduced to this whole concept of the Force. Imagine if in episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, that was just totally ignored.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like in episode 7, we're introduced to this amazingly powerful Force user character who came out of nowhere, and we've never seen anybody use the Force without any training this way before. And in episode 8, it's completely ignored. Like, that is not addressed at all. Like, I could have understood if it was revealed that, she was chosen by the Force for this reason, or it didn't have to be linked to who her parents were, but there had to be some, like, the Force has chosen you at this time to rise up because it's the greatest threat the universe has ever faced, and I don't know why, but there had to be some explanation.
They did kind of mention that, like, as Kylo grew, his equal in the light would grow as well. So, and then there's the interesting theory that because Snoke died, that's why Luke died, because he was his equal.
Yeah, but even there, like, in every other part of the mythology of Star Wars, a Force-sensitive person had to be trained. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, Rey didn't.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm like, okay, that's really cool. Why? Like, what's so special about her? And it was just never addressed. And I thought that was, it's incoherent with the overall story. And then, okay, here's my other big problem with this whole trilogy. And I think it explains a lot of the other problems we've been discussing. There are just too many characters. Okay,
Well, they got rid of some of them.
I know, and I think they had, and I understand why Johnson did that. But hear me out on this.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I agree.
Episode 4, the first Star Wars movie, A New Hope, focused on Luke, Leia, and Han. Mm-hmm. Right? They're kind of the core 3, and then there's Obi-Wan, who's kind of the old wizard figure, and there's Vader. He's the bad guy.
Right.
And then you have R2, C-3PO, and Chewie are essentially sidekicks.
Right.
Right. That's it. Those are your main characters. Lots of other, like, little characters, but they're the main characters.
Right.
Episode 5, this is a little quiz. How many really kind of central new characters are introduced in episode 5?
You really want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's Holt, Commander Holt, right?
Like they're critical to the narrative.
Like Lando.
Lando's one.
Oh. And
Episode 5.
Episode 5 is Empire Strikes Back. And there's one more.
Yoda.
Yoda. I mean, Palpatine's a little, but he's not kind of, so there's Yoda and there's Lando. That's it. There's no more, like, just two, and they're both essential to the story.
Got it.
Right? How many truly new characters, central to the narrative, are introduced in Return of the Jedi?
Jabba.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. The Emperor.
The Emperor. That's it. That's it.
It's
right?
just characters you have before.
Continuing. Right. It's just they continue. And again, those are characters that are critical to the story narrative. Now, Episode 7. Okay, you have Rey, Finn, and Poe. They're kind of the new trio.
Yep.
Right. You have Han, who actually takes the role of Obi-Wan, is the old guy who kind of takes them on their journey. Right. You have Maz Kanata. Completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. You have Leia, who needs to be there.
Yeah.
Right, but not a huge role. Then you have Kylo Ren, who's the new bad guy, and you have Snoke,
Emperor,
a new Emperor, and you have Hux.
You need one of those guys.
And you have Phasma, right?
Boba Fett.
And then you have R2, C-3PO, Chewie, and BB-8. Okay, now part of me gave
a little crowded.
It's crowded, but part of me gave a pass on Episode 7 because they had to bridge the old trilogy and the new trilogy. Right. But here, like you brought up Phasma before, there is no reason why you need both Hux and Phasma. That could have been one character.
Yeah.
You could have made a Captain Phasma who's a battlefield commander, who's kind of a foil, a tension with Kylo Ren, who's this really cool character. Like, you didn't need both of them.
Yeah.
You didn't even really need to introduce Snoke in the first movie. Just like you don't see the Emperor in the first Star Wars movie, right? He kind of comes in later. You could have kept that kind of behind the scenes. Now you get to Episode 8, okay? And you add Luke, which you have to, right? He's kind of the new Yoda character in that one. You add DJ, who's Benicio del Toro's character, who's the new Lando kind of character. Then you add Admiral Holdo. Holdo. And you add Rose.
Right.
And the problem with all these, you had so many new characters that you never have the space to really develop the chemistry between the core three. Like, what made the original trilogy so emotionally impactful was the relationship between Luke, Leia, and Han. And the new trilogy, if you're going to have an emotional impact, there has to be a real chemistry between Poe, Rey, and Finn. And yet they spend no time together in this new movie.
In fact, Poe and Rey meet at the last 2 minutes.
Right. Like, there's no reason why you needed to introduce the character of Rose. You could have had the subplot be could be Finn and Poe kind of teaming up.
Which is what I assumed was going to happen.
And they could have gotten a lot of on-screen time and developed a real brotherhood bond. You could have developed some kind of subplot with those two guys working together.
He's a hotshot pilot who's, crazy trigger happy. I'll stay here on the ship. What?
Right.
What?
Right. And then Admirable Holdo, she had this weird storyline, but she ends up destroying Snoke's ship with that kind of weird hyperspace moment where she blasted. Like, why couldn't that have been Leia?
Right.
Or why couldn't that have been Admiral Akbar?
That's who I thought should have done it. I don't know why they killed that guy off so quickly.
How great would it have been if Admiral Akbar had been like, now I've got you in my trap, and boom,
it's my trap.
Right, and but they keep creating new characters to do what existing characters could have done.
Well, and is it how do you say her name? Holdo?
I think it's Holdo.
Okay,
right?
Holdo. To fit her in, they had to put Leia
in a coma.
Which I'm like, what was the whole point?
Right. So that's what frustrates me is you keep adding all these characters, which crowds the movie, and you have to give them all something to do. Like, okay, would you have really even noticed if C-3PO, R2-D2, or Chewbacca were not in this movie? They had nothing to do.
Yeah.
Nothing to do in this movie. But they have so many characters, and I think that's part of the reason why Johnson's like, okay, let's get rid of Phasma, let's get rid of Snoke, let's just pare this thing back. But it just, I don't know, why do you add Rose and Holdo and DJ that was a stupid character? Like, none of that was necessary. Like, it's just so, I don't know, that's so frustrating. And in the process, you lose the chance to develop real chemistry and depth of relationship between your core characters so that you actually care about them. The one place that they began to do that is between Rey and Luke and Kylo Ren. Like, there's chemistry between that whole dynamic. But that's because they had a lot of screen time together and communication with each other. But everyone else is like at the end when Finn is about to fly into that battering ram laser cannon thing. Yeah. I was like, kill the friggin' guy. I don't care. Yeah. Right. Like, let's thin the herd a little bit.
I always think it's interesting, having made, short films myself, things like that. It's always interesting to watch what you want to come into a story. And I think it's very interesting that Rian Johnson basically took his approach to the film and applied it to one of the characters and made it their mantra as well. And that's Kylo Ren. Let the past die and kill it if you have to.
Yeah.
And he killed it if he had to.
Right.
And he let other pieces die. And I just think it's really interesting that that was his core theme to the movie, and he also applied it to Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
He made the bad guy his his core motivation.
And the interesting part in that is Episode 7, J.J. Abrams' episode. Like it was a paint by numbers recreation of the old New Hope story.
Yeah.
Right. It's new Death Star, new Darth Vader, new Luke Skywalker. He's a girl this time in the desert planet. Like it was absolute paint by numbers, totally beholden to nostalgia. And then Rian Johnson comes along and obliterates that.
Right.
And the problem I have with, I didn't like the nostalgia of Episode 7. I thought it was way too dependent. But what I didn't like about what Johnson did is it showed that there was no cohesive plan for this trilogy. Like these two movies are in complete conflict with each other. And that's what drove me crazy. Like it's not one story in 3 acts. It's almost like two brothers fighting over what they think is the better Star Wars movie. And it's like, oh, come on.
Well, do you think they could do a good job tying it all up?
I don't know. I have no idea, but it would be pretty challenging, I think. It's gonna be. I don't envy J.J. Abrams' challenge here, where not only does he have this complete discontinuity between 7 and 8, unfortunately, Carrie Fisher passed away,
right? So
you don't have that tool in your storytelling toolbox to use. You do have Luke, but. I
thought they were going to bring. I was expecting a ghost in this one. I, for some reason, was not expecting Yoda. I was expecting that they were going to bring Obi-Wan, but
Ewan McGregor.
Because I thought for sure, like, oh, well, then that'll be their tie-in to a Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan story. So, but I could see how they could tie it all together in the third film and use Luke now that Leia's. Well, I don't know what they're gonna do about Leia, but they can use Luke again as a Yoda type character, which they did in. Because Yoda and Anakin and Obi-Wan were all ghosts in Return of the Jedi. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing I don't totally understand is like in the original trilogy when Obi-Wan would appear to Luke as a ghost on Hoth or on Dagobah, whatever, he was kind of a counselor. He was kind of filling him in on and advising him along. When Yoda shows up in this movie, he plays that capacity too, but he's
the weatherman.
He also brings like Thor lightning down on this tree and destroy. Like he actively so
smacks him with a stick.
Right, smacks him with a stick too, and so it makes me like, okay, can Force ghosts actually participate in what's happening? They're not just there to counsel, like to counsel.
One thing I had read is they're making up this. They're making it up as they go along.
Of course they are. That's what's irritating me.
Right. With all these rules, because when Leia didn't die, right away I'm thinking like, all right, well, I guess she's using her Force powers. I didn't realize a Jedi could survive a blast and live in space. Okay, all right, well, I guess so. And then same thing with the lightning. I guess I didn't know a Jedi could call lightning out of the sky. And then what are they calling that? What Luke did, where he projected himself?
Force projection.
Yeah. Which I
actually kind of liked that.
See, I liked it, but what I didn't like about it was the whole time I'm sitting there going, like, why does he have a haircut?
Yeah.
Why did they make him look like young again?
Right.
And like, I know something funky is going on.
And then
here.
he had the blue lightsaber, and you're like, wait a minute, we saw that get destroyed.
And he had no footsteps.
Yeah,
right, and I noticed all that stuff. I was like, but it was the whole haircut. Like, why did they have to make him look young? And I read an article.
Hey, if you were going to project yourself somewhere else and you could look however you wanted, wouldn't you take off a couple pounds and make yourself look more buff?
The audience is sitting there like, because I really thought for a moment they messed up. They shot this when he had short hair, and then they re-edited it thinking no one would notice it. But somehow Josh Lindsay noticed it, and it's bothering me. And then later I'm like, oh, I had to read an article to explain that he decided to pick a younger-looking Luke so that Kylo Ren could relate to him, because that's the last time he saw him was with shorter hair. Because that's in the flashbacks. the last time Kylo Ren saw Luke.
I just figured he stopped at Supercuts on the way.
And
cleaned himself up. Yeah, cleaned himself up a little bit.
You know, no, that really bothered. In fact, I was talking to my son about that in the middle of the movie. I'm like, why is his hair short? And he didn't even notice it, you know. But anyway.
It did raise one question for me, and that is, so droids can see force projections now? Because C-3PO acknowledges him. So is that not just a living creature thing? Is it like that he was actually there?
Okay, now you're getting really deep.
No, I'm just curious.
You're talking about Luke when he shows up at the end.
when he's a force projection, C-3PO acknowledges him and says, Master Luke. And
Because the Force is what binds all living things together, and you're saying
a droid was able to see it?
Okay, but wait, what about the dice?
the dice was weird.
Yeah,
I
that's a strange thing.
I think those dice are only in this movie because they're going to have a critical role in the new Han Solo
Probably.
movie.
Oh.
Which, did you guys see the Rogue One reference? That there's a Rogue One reference that is in this.
What is it?
They mention in Rogue One hyperspace tracking. She's going through all the stuff and she goes, "Oh, hyperspace tracking," that sort of thing. That's new. And then that plays a big part in this.
whatever.
So there's a lot of weird little connections they're doing between
See,
these.
the tough thing about making a Star Wars film is you have to appease three different audiences. General audiences who are not Star Wars fans, you know, like you could just go see a good movie. Mm-hmm. Star Wars fans, where I fall in the category of the movies, and that's it. I didn't play the video games, I didn't read the books.
Right.
I just really like the movies. And then you got fanboys who know everything about the history, mythology, one sitting right there. And like because they get the angriest where it's like, because like I guess that one, the purple hair hobo, what's her name? Haldo. She's a real person in the novels. Like that's where they pulled her from, you know. And like I don't care.
What the fact of the matter is, when you're making a Star Wars film, there's only one audience you have to please.
Kids are going to buy toys?
No.
The executives.
The shareholders of the Disney Corporation, right? And they will make a ton of money on this. And there were aspects of this movie I enjoyed, I liked. But it's so frustrating when you like these basic storytelling elements don't create characters that you don't need if your existing characters can do what you need done,
right?
Like that kind of stuff. And and just the failure to have a continuity of story narrative arc in this trilogy is really frustrating. So they're all kind of on meta level disagreements that I think then manifest themselves in the details of the movie that really annoy us. So this is one of those things where the failure was determined before they ever shot a single frame of this movie, because they didn't plan ahead when they did Episode 7. They wrote way too many characters into the story that weren't necessary. Now I feel like it's becoming, this is going to get political, but I feel like they feel the need to introduce a character of every ethnicity and gender possible in order to appease the global audience that they now want to engage. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry the original trilogy didn't have enough diversity, but by keeping the number of characters limited, you go deep with those characters and you care about them. When you fill out a universe in every 2-hour movie with 20 different ethnicities and genders and orientations, all that, you can't go as deep into the characters and whatever. So
I do have one observation that I wanted to kind of throw at you guys. That is that right now, as we record this, The Last Jedi is at 56% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. That's the lowest score on any platform. IMDb, it's like a 7.9. That is 1 percentage point lower than Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. It's one lower on Rotten Tomatoes right now. That's interesting.
Well, I read an article.
But the critics have it at 93%.
Yeah, the critics loved it.
Right.
But the general audience thinks it's 1% lower.
I read an article about that, and basically what the article was saying, it's an interesting observation. We won't know for a while how, quote, accurate that really is. Because, like, there are audiences, like, for example, when they rebooted Ghostbusters, and there was somehow this faction, this group of people that was, they did something where they lowered the score for Ghostbusters on Rotten Tomatoes, or they manipulated the system somehow? Yeah, like they just agreed, we're going to hate this film before we even saw it, just because they simply rebooted it with women, and that wasn't reflective of necessarily of general audiences, let's say, you know. And so that's what they were commenting here, where it's like, we're not really sure if this is just a select group of fanboys who really did hate it, and we're like, we're going to drive the score down on at least on that side of it.
Yeah.
But the other comment they made was, in this observation, this is kind of the opposite of what it normally is. Normally, critics are very critical of these types of films,
and fans love
audiences get angry at critics for like, how could you not like this? It's Star Wars or whatever. Yeah. And it's a flip-flop right now.
That's part of why I wanted to bring it up, because it's such an interesting opposite dynamic of how it normally is.
Yeah. It is also interesting hearing what different people are taking issue with, right? Like we mentioned, some of the fanboys are really upset that Luke dies at the end. They're really upset that Rey's parents, or no one in particular. I actually really liked both of those points.
Real quick about Rey's parents. My daughter, Piper, she's 13, and she liked that Rey didn't have any special parents. And it speaks to the end of the film, where that little boy who's basically a slave, and he's playing with the Star Wars toys, and he has Force powers, and probably doesn't have special parents, right? But what it's saying to kids is like, why not you? You can be, you don't have to be a Skywalker to be a hero, right?
Yeah. So, and going back to I also really like I said, that she's a kind of a nobody, but I still wanted an explanation. So why she's so force powerful, and why Anakin's lightsaber called to her. And the story I've made up in my head is that, a lot of the Force is based on Buddhist kind of philosophy. So the story I made up in my head is Anakin, became Darth Vader and did all this evil stuff, and at the very end is kind of redeemed and is one with the Force, but he kind of has this bad karma because of all the bad things he did, and wants to make up for that even more. And so because his life force is still in some way attached to his lightsaber, he chooses this girl who, like him, from a desert planet, kind of a slave, right? Kind of a nobody. He calls out to her and decides that through this nobody who parallels my own life, I want to bring good and restore the light side of the Force in a significant way. And for some reason, Anakin in his spirit, whatever, through his lightsaber, calls this nobody, desert-dwelling slave girl and chooses her and gives her enormous powers that no one else has been given, so that she can kind of bring balance to his karma, right? Do good the way he did evil. And that would explain why the saber called to her, and why she needs to fight the darkness, and on and on. So, and then you get a parallel, because here you have Kylo Ren, who's trying to be like his grandfather, and his grandfather's saying, no, you're going down the wrong path. I'm going to choose someone else to be like the person I should have been.
Right.
I think that would have been a more interesting. And then, like in The Force Awakens, when they have that battle at the end, and Kylo says, that lightsaber, it belongs to me, but it flies past him and goes to her. It's Anakin saying, no, this is the one who's going to carry on my legacy, because you are emulating the wrong thing.
They can still do it. They can still do it.
That's the story I wanted.
J.J. Abrams is going to pick up, number 3. Why not?
So I think that would have been more poetically consistent with the things Abrams put into Episode 7. But maybe he will pick it up in Episode 9, but that leaves Episode 8 to just kind of be this weird standalone. And someone else I read made this great point. Like, what has really changed between the end of 7 and the end of 8? Like, go back to the original trilogy. What changed in between Episode 4 and 5 was Luke's been trained as a Jedi. The Empire has struck back and decimated the rebellion. Han Solo is in carbonite. You don't know what's going to happen to him. But what's really changed between 7 and 8? Hey, at the end of 7, the New Republic has been destroyed. The Resistance has been scattered. They're a little bit smaller. The First Order is in charge. But nothing else has really changed. Right. Like, Rey hasn't really been trained in anything. Kylo's still this pouty, unstable
right.
Dark Force user.
Darth Millennial.
Yeah, Darth Millennial. Snoke is still like, okay, we have no idea who he was or what his real motivations were, and he's gone. Like, there's nothing that's fundamentally changed.
Now I like this film even less. Thank you.
So
now go see it again.
Now let's all go give him more money and see it again.
Okay.
So that our complaints can be more informed.
That's right. As we're wrapping up here, we're going to skip the Something Borrowed segment, but I was originally going to pull up the National Film Registry, because they added, I think, 25 more films, and they do that every year to preserve certain films that have significant cultural value and so forth. And the interesting thing in there is there's over 700 films, and of course Star Wars is in there.
Yeah.
But so is Empire Strikes Back. And as far as I can tell, it's the only sequel in the entire...
And not Jedi.
Not Jedi.
Okay, interesting.
But no other movie in there was a sequel to any other films, from what I could tell anyway. But
Wow.
that was significant. But I guess what I'm leading up to is, it's so funny that we can get so riled up about hating the prequels or getting angry at The Last Jedi for whatever, and you're like, who cares? We don't get this upset about, other films that are bad, but it just speaks to how great the original trilogy.
Exactly. Yeah. That was my proposal. I think this is the best Star Wars movie since the original trilogy, but that's not saying much.
Right.
And it does show the original trilogy is just the shining jewel of a movie story that is just phenomenal. And I'm so grateful that we have it. But I've given up hope of recapturing that magic. I just don't think it's going to happen. We're going to get a bazillion more Star Wars movies before we're dead. And some of them may be better than others, but none of them are going to come close. It's just not going to happen.
And we'll go see them.
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
Because we're idiots. All right, real quick, anything that blew your mind or blew chunks?
Yeah, I want to promote another podcast, WSTR. It's 4 or 5 guys, and their podcast is all Star Wars.
Every week? Like all the time?
Yeah. And they might do it twice a month. I don't know how often they do the podcast, but... I've listened to several of them, but I'm not that deep into Star Wars. Like, right. I mean, if you are a hardcore Star Wars fan and you want a podcast that talks about it, WSTR is the podcast to listen to.
Okay. Well, mine, to quote Monty Python, now for something completely different.
Go for it.
Season 2 of the Grand Tour is out. I've only seen the first episode, but they've made some course corrections, things that didn't work well in episode 1. I mean, in season 1, they've changed in season 2, and it's for the better. And it was a great first episode. So if you're into cars and you like British humor, go for it. It's fun. It's a nice palate cleanser.
Where can you watch it?
Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Amazon Prime, which is now available as an app on Apple TV, which is really nice. So, okay, I'm exhausted, emotionally, physically.
Got it off your chest.
Got it off my chest. I am curious to know what you guys all thought. Read my Facebook posts. Tell me if I'm crazy. I don't think we're going to do another podcast until the new year. Right, we're taking a little break here over Christmas.
Yeah. Well, it's in 2 weeks, so yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back. Anyway, thank you for sticking with us for the last year. We're grateful for your audience-ship engagement. I'm losing it.
This was episode number 30, I think.
Is it 30?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, and to you. Give us your feedback. Rate us on iTunes or wherever you got this podcast from. Share it with your friends. We'd love to build the audience a little bit more. If you want to support me and some of my work, you can go to skyjatani.com. There's a donate page there where you can sign up for my daily devotional for as little as $2 a month, or make a one-time donation to support the work I'm doing here, the Phil Vischer podcast, all my speaking, writing, and consulting work for ministry, and kind of bridging the culture-faith divide. Josh, anything you need to plug?
No, I'm good.
Oh, yeah. Fine. If he's good, I'll take one more. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I do financial planning. I do, if you're in the Chicagoland area and you would like someone, Skye's a client of mine, right? So
me too.
Oh, actually, so is Jason. Yeah. So, retirement planning, insurance, Chicagoland area. You can look me up.
One more shameless self-promotion. My latest book, Immeasurable, was just awarded Christianity Today's Book of the Year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you for church leadership. So if you or someone in your life is a church leader or a very invested lay leader in a church, and you're kind of exploring those ideas, pick up a copy of Immeasurable. I think you'll be challenged and blessed and encouraged by it. It's an unusual book.
I've read the first 4 chapters. Good book.
And just to be completely honest, the last chapter is the best one.
Oh, well, good.
So, and it's one of those books you can jump.
Saves me a lot of time.
Yeah. It's a book you can jump around from chapter. Like, you don't have to read it in sequence.
All
you
right.
can read it. They're all standalone kind of chapters.
The book is an anthology.
It is an anthology. Although there is continuity.
Really?
Lucasfilm, if you need help, give me a call. I'm available. All right, till next time, you can kiss this podcast goodbye.
I got a bad feeling about this.